that kind of outgoing.
Both of you collectively remind me that weekend is near. So.
Oh, and I'm jealous of you because you look cold and I'm boiling hot. Lagos, you can figure out how that
Don't be
works.
deceived. I'm just protecting my insights. So Lagos, join the conversation by following us on Twitter at Smooth981FM. Use that hashtag freshlypressed981. When you add it to your messages, we can see and read them. On YouTube, we're streaming live. Our YouTube account on YouTube, rather, is Smooth981FM Lagos. All right, so just type that in the search box and we'll right up. Please hit the subscribe button. And also, we are on WhatsApp. So send your messages to 0809 444 0981. Mr. Ireti Bakare-Yusuf is at CCO Lagos. You already know that. Let's start with this first story, Mr. Ireti.
Yes.
From the Punch newspaper, the Federal Executive Council has approved 5.5 billion naira for the training of 12,000 unemployed youth under the federal government Empower.
And I haven't had time to do research, but apparently this contract has been awarded to a company called Softcom Limited. And it says here, this is a quote, each of the 12,000 beneficiaries will train 5 others, making a total of 60,000. The idea is to make our youth entrepreneurs employing others. Well, they already do.
Avenue to train others is fine, but let's look at the all-inclusiveness of participants or candidates from across the country.
Well, what I'm actually saying is,
and Computer Village is localized in Lagos.
Yeah, but what I'm even saying is 259,000 to any small business is a lot of money, right? Any one-man business, any side business where you've got the skills to be able to turn gadgets into humans is a lot of money. So why don't we invest that? So that's what you call direct investment. Invest it directly into a structure that already exists to formalize the structure, if you like. Why not do that? I don't know, but anyway, it's a good and question mark for me, so we don't spend too much time on it. I mean, it's happening. 18, by the way, it's 60,000 youths who are in the age bracket of 18 to 25 years. So
They'll be part of the scheme and it lasts for 9 months.
And it's open to everybody, so you really need to apply for the Empower program.
Exactly. So go check out the website and apply. 9 months training there, skills acquisition. Let's move on now. I'll stick with Punch for this next story. IMF praises Nigeria's economy, urges elimination of tax incentives, and suggests a VAT reform. So this is coming from the International Monetary Fund. Nnamdi, they're saying that the Nigerian economy is recovering very fast with increased, I added a very fast part, with increased gross domestic product in 2018 and falling inflation at the end of 2018. Well, they marked out some areas that of consideration, also made some suggestions to the Nigerian government, especially the one I found curious was the one to the CBN, reminding them of their primary duty to actually focus on price stability mandates to make sure that the currency is stable and not distract themselves with intervening in the economic plans or strategies. But your thoughts on this?
So, having looked at the story, the headline is, I wouldn't say misleading, but it doesn't actually cover the entirety of what's being said.
Yes.
As you pointed out, the IMF is praising Nigeria for the increase in GDP in 2018 by about 1.1% from 2017. They're also commending the fact that there's been a relatively stable exchange rate, as you've managed to point out, and headline inflation falling. However, what they're saying is that there are a number of things that would slow down Nigeria's recovery and continued economic progress. It's important to note that whilst they said that there have been strides to improve the general business environment, that's for ease of doing business in Nigeria, which is something that the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, I think I got that right, PEBEC, it's something that they'd be very pleased to hear. They still say that it's still a little too poor, and I'm sure that anyone who's familiar with indices that measure the ease of doing business around the world would know that Nigeria is not high up there.
Yes.
They also mentioned a large infrastructure gap, low revenue mobilization. Revenue mobilization, in effect, is a descriptor for tax systems that are simple, broad-based, and fair, across the board. They also talk about governance and institutional weaknesses, continued foreign exchange restrictions. We know all these things, banking sector vulnerabilities, and all of that, which are just dampening the long-term outlook. As you mentioned earlier, they did say something about monetary policy and exchange rate stability, but they said that focusing too strongly on that to the detriment of other economic indicators would worsen competitiveness if there isn't greater flexibility accommodated when needed. They also talked about high financing costs on the back of little fiscal adjustment, which is creating a dampener on private sector credit. There's a lot of very highfalutin words thrown around. I'm trying to break it down as much as possible, but they're essentially trying to tell us to focus on the economic recovery and growth plan, which was much touted for a long time in the past, and they're trying to ask. They didn't really talk about any particular recommendations for value-added tax reform, but they did say, "Oh, there should be VAT reform," and I'm sure that headline was picked out in the wake of the recent announcement, non-announcement of an increase in VAT.
Yes.
I don't know. I think I was here.
It's an idea that is being mulled, according to that's their favorite word, mulled.
Exactly.
It's something they're thinking about implementing, but it hasn't come into effect. It hasn't
exactly been declared or implemented, as you said. Overall, it's a story that is generally highlighting the fact that the Nigerian economy is back on the up.
Okay.
But there are still factors that are holding us back.
So too soon,
unfortunately.
too soon to celebrate?
I don't know about too soon to celebrate. I don't know if it's really about celebration. It's really just about directives for how to make the economy improve.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Nnamdi. Let's move on to this next story. Remember, you can send in your messages through WhatsApp to 0809-444-0981. My next story is from the Thisday newspaper. Ms. Ireti, I'll come to you for this one. Accept terms of scholarship or quit. That's coming from the Amnesty office. They're telling the students who were deployed to Admiralty University in Ibusa, Delta State for academic programs to accept the terms of scholarship as applicable to the institution or vacate their premises. So the students sent in rejection. They didn't send in rejection letters. They rejected the sponsorships by some of the delegates, those who were offered admission to the university for the current academic session on the ground them. So essentially, the schools were paid 70,000 naira. Part of it, out of it, 45,000 naira was for monthly feeding of each student. Ms. Ireti, your thoughts on this entire story?
I find it absolutely ridiculous,
Why?
just totally ridiculous. So first of all, though, I need to understand when they say what was it the term they used, the feeding program.
Yes.
Compulsory feeding by the institution, which means that they have to get their food from the university. The money doesn't go into their hands.
Yes,
I'm presuming
the school has to feed them.
I'm presuming that's what that's what it means, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
that means that they get breakfast, lunch and dinner
from the cafeteria.
Paid
for.
It's a bit like being a boarding school,
Yes.
right? What's wrong with that? What is wrong? That's why I find the whole thing. Look, so my problem with half of this, I actually saw one moaning on Twitter yesterday that said he texted he tagged somebody who is apparently an influencer and said, please help us. I'm on the Amnesty program. They haven't 6 months and the schools haven't been paid and some people are about to be thrown out. Well, that may be true, but here's those who don't have to be thrown out saying they don't want to accept because they won't leave. They won't accept food from the school. I'm sorry, what is this nonsense?
Perhaps they're feeling disgruntled, Ms. Ireti, because maybe their predecessors were sent abroad and they are asked to remain in Delta State, Nigeria.
Tough, get over it. Life was never fair. Who said it would be? Even if you are on an amnesty program, don't overstretch it. No, it's true. Don't overstretch it. Look, they must remember that it's good that they're doing this, and I'm glad, and I actually prefer that they're sending them to universities in the UK rather than abroad, because half of the ones that went abroad and studied to become a pilot, etc., how many of them can we point to? Not a great deal. And then there were those who were sending back saying the government wasn't paying them. They weren't paying for their accommodation in Dubai and places like that. Well, we don't need to send them abroad, most certainly. And it costs a lot more to send them abroad. They should stay in Nigerian universities like the rest of us, other people have had to do. The government is paying for the university, which the government should do, and they're paying for their feeding, which should be done. Get over yourself. It's either you want to learn or you don't. If you don't, get out. There are others who need to come in.
I think what is strange, I'm just looking at it, I think what might actually be the problem is that they wanted to receive the entirety of their in training allowance of 70,000 naira.
They want it in cash.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
and
Yeah,
then
but that's
they
I'm
say-
like nonsense.
Don't you think that that's not too crazy to ask?
No,
for?
I'll tell you why.
Don't feed us, we'll find our own food. Just
I
give
get
us the money.
I get what you're saying, and there is an argument for that. But the other side of it is we often know what happens when you give people money in Nigeria. The chances are they're going to use it for something else, not use it for food. And within half of the term, and I'm being really generous by saying half of the term, they'll be hungry again, asking other people for money. So I think the very least you can expect is for the school to feed them. They're living in the school. Feed them morning, noon, and night. Everything else can be extra. And guess what? They can go get part-time jobs like everybody else has to.
Ms. Ireti, thank you for that one. I'll stay with you though. Let's talk about this next story from Premium Times. The federal government has approved the renaming of Federal Teaching Hospital in Abakaliki to Alex Ekwueme University Teaching Hospital, Abakaliki. So Alex Ekwueme is the former vice president of Nigeria who died in November of 2017, was in office between 1979 and 1973. What do you think of this move by the federal government?
I don't know. I don't think it matters. I mean, look, it was somebody request. Well, because what the expectations, I don't understand it. So somebody requested it. I think it's a nice honor. What I'm saying is I don't think it necessarily matters. That doesn't mean it's not a nice thing to do. It's a nice, respectable thing to do. However, what does surprise me in this story is that the chairman of the hospital's board, Ahmed Ramalan, has said, quote, "This is a big achievement in the next level mantra of the present administration. It is hoped that the renaming will make the hospital attain greater heights." I don't know. So maybe when a university or a college or whatever gets called, named after a dead leader, maybe that's when it retains
a
greater.
great leader.
Well, no,
besides,
it's not that.
It's getting more attention.
No, but allow me to finish.
Okay.
My question is, the university is a teaching university, right? The hospital is a teaching university. So therefore the investment should go into it, whether it's got the name of me, you, or and the Dalai Lama for that matter. It really shouldn't matter. But what they are saying here is that it actually will make that change. And that's what surprises me. It goes further down and they talk about, and this is the thing, it says we have recorded successes within the period, which include completion of the construction and furnishing of 500-seater auditorium, and then they go on about some of the other things that they've achieved, including an echo scanning blood gas analyzer, whatever that is. I understand all of this is expensive and it's investment, but what I'm saying is I can't believe, and it shouldn't be, because a university has been changed, has had its name changed or been renamed to something that it then gets that kind
hospital,
of.
not the
Yeah,
university
okay,
itself.
fine. It's still a university. It's a university that it won't get investment or funds until it's given the name of a particular individual. Why is that? That's what I don't get. It shouldn't make any difference. It shouldn't matter. They should get the investment anyway. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
They should get it. So that's why they've named it, and it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It just shouldn't be because of.
So a two-part function: to honor the great man and also to pay attention to the university teaching hospital and provide the necessary equipment that they need.
Great man indeed.
Let's move on now. Let's talk about this next story, and I'll come to you. I'll come to you for this one, Nnamdi. Nnamdi, this story reads very curiously and speaks to the recent developments in the police force. The Premium Times has this story: Saraki assures police reform bill passage, and we know that just very fresh in our minds, the death of Kolade Johnson, who was hit by a stray bullet on Sunday in Lagos. Now, the Senate President Bukola Saraki, who has been very vocal about in reactions to what's just happened and investigations that ensued afterwards, he said yesterday and assured the Inspector General of Police when they paid him a visit, Mohammed Adamu, he told them that the Senate, the 8th National Assembly, is ready to pass 2 pending police-related bills before the end of its tenure. Your thoughts?
First of all, rest in peace, Kolade Johnson. Yeah. That was a very sad story to hear. Then the next thing to note is this story is a little short on detail about the actual bill. So what I've done is I've taken the liberty to uncover a little bit about what the police reform bill in particular means for Nigerians. So yes. The first thing, there are about 7, I think this was posted on Facebook, but there are 7 things Nigerians must know about the police reform bill. First is the establishment of a service-oriented and modern police that will meet globally acceptable standards. Modernization of the current police force, which was conceptualized a long time ago and needs to, progress with the times. Establishment of guiding principles to ensure effective policing in Nigeria, including efficiency and effectiveness, accountability, transparency, protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and partnership with other security institutions. They also talk about methods of dealing with abuse of weapons by police officers, which is most relevant in light of what we just mentioned with that unfortunate incident that happened a little while ago. And then there are clauses in the bill that mandate record keeping by the police, which is absolutely absurd that we have a reform bill that is referring to this in 2019. Record keeping.
Perhaps it's been deficient because
of course it's been deficient. I'm just saying that how can we still be talking about reforming that process in 2019? It should have been undertaken a long time
ago. If something is not working properly, revisit it, right?
Fair enough.
It was never there, is the point. It's not even that it's not working, it was never there.
They also talk about the establishment of a community police and boards in all states of the federation, with more broad representation of the people, and establishment of an independent complaint authority. I thought we already had that. What's that PRCRC thing about?
Yes,
I thought that was already
there, but
that mechanism.
You understand when it is attached to certain force offices. Exactly. You know how people can be with
the
that.
problem with that bill is there's so much missing in it. So much missing.
No, these are
in
just
it.
highlights.
Yeah,
I haven't
highlights.
actually seen the actual.
Yeah, I think I've read bits from different people. The one thing we need to start first and foremost look at the humans. The police are not robots; they are humans, and we need to look at the conditions that they exist in, that they're expected to work in first and foremost. Because whether we like it or not, all of this contribute to their psychological state.
That's right.
And it's that psychological state that pushes somebody to shoot randomly with that. And I'm not making an excuse. I am not tolerating it. Before you all get on your, itchy fingers and start saying no, not at all. But what I am saying is that we have to be matured enough and and courageous enough to actually look at how we contribute to the to the behavior of our policemen and women, okay, and the force in general. We live in a country where people have systematically been dehumanized, and we have to look at how we begin to fix that. Because you can have all the bills you want in the world, you can create policies, etc., but at the end of the day, the police are still human beings. And if you expect people who you have dehumanized and practically demoralized and devalued to look after you and I and put their lives on the line, because their job is to put our safety first before them, they're not going to do that.
But what I would say, just in conclusion, is without being too snarky or snide, I hope that this police reform bill will ensure that the police do not need to be as friendly. You know that statement, the police is your friend. Right? We all know what it means in Nigeria. I hope it stops them being as friendly as they've been over the years and start focusing more on actually keeping the peace.
But they can't until you fix the conditions. You stop dehumanizing them.
The Senate President, the bulk of the story, the Senate President has said that both bills, the Police Trust Fund Bill and the Police Reform Bill, will be passed before May 29th when the Senate leaves office.
We'll keep track on that.
So we'll keep track of that, yes.
227 in the message on WhatsApp says, "Good morning, team. Where are the part-time jobs? Or don't think renaming will matter. Will excellence suddenly descend on them?"
I wonder.
It was named after Alex Ekwueme. Yinka sent in a message here saying, Ebonyi State University Teaching Hospital got renamed, and we had no issue with that. Go mad when Unilag was renamed after MKO. To Maulag. See, double standards flows in our blood for full time. Yinka said. Tony Ayo from Ayo says, finally, the Buhari government has put to shame those who called his anti-corruption fight one-sided with the another case. We're not treating that, but we get your point. Thank you, Tony. This next one is from Akobi from Kotun. Akobi says, please, there is nothing like stray bullet to go Kolakbo. The person with him then confirmed it was intentionally shot.
I believe it was.
Well, that is still prone to debate. Tunde B says, entitlement is the problem the Amnesty guys are having. Many of us sent ourselves through school.
Exactly.
Excuse me, without government holding the government responsible. I thought that, but I couldn't say it.
No, but I actually do think that if your scholarship say one thing, then you
Yes.
can't just change
It
it.
should be
last
followed
minute.
to the
It does
letter.
make sense
I understand.
to an extent.
Yes, to an extent. Now, JP says, freshly pressed, good morning. To be frank, if they want to be paid on the basis of the quality of food served, if the quality of food served is off, then I think it's not asking for the extraordinary. If on the other hand, the quality isn't an issue, then they might be wrong.
My son hates his school meals. He's still got to have it. He lives there.
We all
Tough.
hated our school meals.
Exactly. They're not supposed to be
But
nice.
it's a tertiary institution.
It's
so
mass
expect
You guys
better.
speak for
Mass
yourself.
produced.
Me, I be butter.
Yeah,
I
ma-
love butter.
well,
so-
really.
No, I'm
Let's
kidding.
move
I'm
on.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Even, it doesn't matter. That's my point. Is it doesn't even matter whether you go
Can
to
we
butter
move
school.
on? We have more
Nobody likes
stories
the
to
school
handle,
meals.
right?
Nobody.
Lagos, please send in your messages, and from any part of the world, please use that hashtag freshlypressed981. Our next story, Ms. Ireti, from the Vanguard newspaper. Federal government to sell off recovered assets within 6 months. Your thoughts?
Yes. Sorry. I got
Just so
distracted.
carried
I
away
beg your
with the
pardon.
feeding.
Yes. It's Nnamdi. Blame it on him. My mind got thinking
So
about food.
the federal
He
government
says,
is-
yes, this is an interesting story. So
Mm.
the selling of the assets. Remember, everybody's been saying what happened to all the assets that you seized,
That were
what
recovered.
happened, and also some of the monies that were recovered, etc., etc. I believe some of that money, the money that's been recovered, the cash, has been used to how do you say, buffer
The TSA.
the expenses.
Yeah,
Yes,
the-
that's
the-
yes, exactly. Spent on infrastructure and stuff. Now, with regards to assets, they're now selling them, and it says here that this is Buhari's obviously approved it. There's a quote here. It says the Minister of Defense, working with all the relevant authorities, has been authorized to take action to liquidate all recovered unencumbered assets within 6 months. This basically means that, you know what, a lot of people, quote unquote rich people, who but it is true. This is
Go
not the
on.
problem of us ordinary people.
Never
Neither is
mind,
it a
yeah.
problem of the poor.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the rich people who have been accused or have been found guilty or who've had assets taken away from them are now going to be losing those assets. I don't think it's anything we need to cry about. I
Remember,
think
there was a time they
it's
asked them
about
to come
time.
forward if
Yes.
they claim to those assets.
And how many of them could come forward?
Not so
Because you
many.
couldn't, and it's important. And it also says it very quickly.
Yes.
The Department of Petroleum Resources has been directed to, within 3 months, complete the collection of past due oil license and royal charges, including those due from Nigerian Petroleum, which is an NPDC.
Nigerian
Thank
Petroleum
you.
Development Company.
Thank you. And which it had agreed to pay since 2017. I predict, and I'm saying to you here, keep an eye on this whole petroleum. I think we're going to see some really interesting
Changes,
stories
yes.
coming out. Yes, with
Yes.
regards to ownership of oil blocks, etc., etc. I suspect things are going to be changing. But this is good. Let's sell off those assets because we need the money.
Yes,
The
we do.
question is that they haven't told us where they're going to put the money, what they're going to use the money for.
Well, let's watch within the next 6 months.
I
we'll
don't want
see.
to watch. I'd rather the minister told me they're selling the assets
I
because
think
it's
the federal government is
it's-
looking to recoup money so that they can pay off their debts, because that's one of the strong points.
Well,
that-
which one? The one in
for the next 4
China?
years.
No, we can pay the debts in China if we fix the infrastructure that's on the ground, which will help business to grow.
Right.
And then government gets revenue, so invest it in the country.
Okay, so let's talk about communications. Thank you, Mr. Aziz, for that. Nnamdi, I'll come to you for this story from Thisday newspaper. This one has it that the Nigerian Communications Commission has said it has taken steps to address the situation of cyber attacks in telecom services such as voice, data, internet, and broadband, and they're vowing to protect telecom subscribers from cyber attacks. Your thoughts on this story?
Right. So everybody remembers the WannaCry ransomware attack of May 2017. It's crazy. It's 2 years now. It was a big deal around the world. They had to do with DDoS. I'm sure someone like Chatal will better be able to describe what DDoS is, but it's a huge cybersecurity risk that develops around the world. What the NTC is saying is that they've set up the National Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, which is CSIRT, which is supposed to provide full protection against cyber attacks on all telecom services, which is obviously a very big step forward. In the wake of the passing of the GDPR last year, I don't know if you guys know about the general rules for data protection passed in Europe. There was a big scramble, I remember, amongst law firms in Nigeria to find out exactly what it would mean to us here at data integrity. And just speaking to that, my point is that there haven't been a lot by the way of new developments in cybersecurity protection and in ensuring that our data privacy is quite clearly secured and all of that. And so this is a step in the right direction. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly. And just for the purpose of clarity, everybody who's listening, DDoS is denial of service attack. It's just a temporary measure by hackers.
Denial distribution of service.
Yeah, so they temporarily make it unavailable to you so you can pay some ransom and receive your service back.
Thank you. That's really actually such a very
well, we
simple
do
way to
need
put
protection. We actually need a strong e-legislation. They can keep doing all these things.
There's a
cybercrime.
There's a cybercrime act. I know that there's one of that, and there's a couple of other things. Yeah.
All right, let's very quickly touch on this story, Nnamdi, from Thisday. ExxonMobil places $3 billion Nigeria's assets for sale. Seems like they're leaving, Nnamdi. What do you think?
Slightly scary, but not totally unexpected in the current oil and gas climate. What they're saying in this story is that ExxonMobil is placing about $3 billion worth of assets up for sale. They've opened a data room, or they're due to open a data room, which is where they have all the technical information about the available assets, where potential purchasers go in to ensure that they cherry pick the right assets and all of that. At the moment, the ExxonMobil shares in joint ventures with NNPC, including OMLs 66, 68, 70, and 104, appear to be up for sale. At one point, ExxonMobil was producing about 225,000 barrels per day. That's about 10%, or just over 10% of Nigeria's daily output. Now they're trying to back out. This follows Shell backing out a little while ago. I think ConocoPhillips, a Canadian firm, backed out a while ago. International oil companies in general are going out. So and the Nigerian government is encouraging the ITOs and the Owandos and Seplats to take up these assets and maybe indigenize oil production in Nigeria.
Yeah, wasn't
on the one hand you
wonder, ConocoPhillips was bought by now.
Some of their assets. You wonder on the one hand whether it's a good thing, in the sense that for the greater part of the time, international oil companies bring international standards and they guarantee you a world-class service. And some of the indigenous companies perhaps are not as well proven as out there. But it is what it is. They're going to sell the assets. Life moves on.
Fantastic, Nnamdi. Thank you. Those scary, but we move with caution. Daily here on WhatsApp says NCC should focus on the big boo-boo they made with the KYC and telecom companies that has made us all vulnerable to fraudsters calling us with dubious deals.
They did mention that hackers and fraudsters are in their crosshairs.
Exactly.
Can I just say quickly, the one thing they need to get rid of is that Truecaller thing. I find it so intrusive. I don't know about that. Yeah, but they just need to ban. Yeah, you can ban it from your space. You can ban it from your space. The way. Because I call somebody and they're calling me by my name and I don't know them. How dare you?
Seriously, welcome to the age of technology.
No, forget. That's absolute nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. That's nonsense. Look, if other countries can block certain apps from their space, we should be able to block certain apps from. I do not, and I'm like, how the hell do you know my name?
Lagos, thank you for listening, and every part of the world.
So
Please, let's continue this conversation on social media. Use that hashtag FreshlyPress91. Special thanks to Nnamdi at Nnamdi AK.
Hey, what's up?
This is Ireti Bakare-Yusuf at CC again, Lagos.
I know, having a meltdown about Truecaller on a Thursday morning.
Entertainment here inside of the Great